All right, I'm going to share something in this video that will A, change the way that you list properties, and B, impact the rest of your career. Now, I know that's a big promise, but this is really, really important. I mean, this is probably the most important video that I've ever put on the channel. And so where this conversation starts is I put a poll out both on my Instagram and on YouTube. And it is crazy to me that 25 to 30% of the agents in this industry still believe that property marketing can still sell an overpriced listing. In other words, they believe that they can outmarket an overpriced listing, that the marketing that they do will surpass the importance of proper pricing and proper positioning to get the home sold. Now, let's talk about what in the world is going on here. Now, let me ask you a serious question. When is the last time you actually sold one of your listings through one of those, Instagram reels or through a Facebook ad or through a post on TikTok? Be honest. Now, I could just hear somebody right now, one of the keyboard warriors typing, yeah, Brandon, I sold a house through the, I get it. Maybe it's the anomaly, but can we just be honest for a second before we get into this conversation too deep? That the vast majority of all the property marketing that you do is not for the consumer. It's not for the seller. Who's it for? Come on, be honest. Who's it for? It's for the agent. It's for you to get more leads and to build your personal brand. Now, this goes way deeper than this because agents in this industry, they continue to lie to the consumer. They lie to the consumer when the consumer says, hey, John, Bob, Joanne, what are you going to do to sell my house? They answer that question with a lie. However, the problem is they believe it themselves. And so therefore, they validate to the consumer that property marketing is more important than anything else. And so I want to walk you through, I'm going to break this whole thing down. This is going to make so much sense to you. When I show you what I'm about to show you, it's going to be, number one, you won't be able to unsee it. And then number two, like I said before, it will change the way you do business for the rest of your career, I promise. Let's first unpack this idea of, okay, seller says, what are you going to do to sell my house? I'm going to show you in this video or in this conversation why the seller is asking that. Where's that coming from? I'm going to show you who trained the sellers to ask these questions. And again, the new agent who doesn't know any better, they're bought into the lie themselves. I cannot tell you how many conversations I have with agents that have been licensed for, call it less than 3 years, who want to argue to the death how important property marketing is. They tell me, Brandon, I've got this listing that isn't selling. What can I do to sell it? And then when we talk about the reality of what they have to do to actually sell it, now it's got to be something else. It's got to be something else. And new agents just don't know any better. Agents that are more experienced, they know, like if you're being honest, they know none of the stuff they're about to tell the seller when they're asked that question is going to sell the house. But they're going to be able to leverage the listing. They're going to be able to generate more leads. They're going to build their personal brand. And so they use their client's home to do just that. They use it to make, you've seen them, those sexy, Instagram reels where they, walk through the property and they tell the story and they're walking through the neighborhood, blah, 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 blah. I mean, those don't sell homes. That helps the agent become famous. That's what's going on. It makes the agent look good. And then they further the lie because then they use those videos to go on the next listing appointment to try to impress the seller. And so this further validates this lie that property marketing really matters. And then these agents who know it's BS, they say, well, I'm not going to fight it. I'm going to win because I'm going to make sexier videos than all the agents. I'm going to do more property marketing than any other agent. Why? It's to help me win listings. It doesn't help me sell the property. Now, I'm not going to tell the sellers that, of course. It's all going to help me, but I'm going to blow away my all these new agents that can't afford to do these videos. And then when I go sit in front of a seller, yeah, of course they're impressed. But this is the closest thing to malpractice that I can think of. Literally, you are putting some BS in front of them with this sexy video. Look at how many impressions we get in all of our videos, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, tell them how many buyers you generate through those, not how many leads you get. We're not talking about that. And we're not talking about how many likes you're getting, how many followers you're getting, how many leads you're getting for people to buy another home. How many buyers are you generating for that person's house? Now, the seller doesn't know any better because for years, agents that don't know how to sell homes fall on this idea that says, okay, well, I'm going to spend my entire listing appointment communicating all these, what seems like these sexy marketing things, because actually, I don't know what else sells a home. Literally, I was having a conversation the other day with some agents I'm coaching, and this very thing came up. And one of the agents was like, well, if it's not that, Brandon, then what is it? Why are they hiring us? And I was like, this is it. That's why I have to make this video. The agents, you people don't even know the answer to the question. I'm going to help you answer it for you in just a second. You don't know the answer. So then you go in there and think the answer is property marketing, which has trained the consumer over the last 20, 30 years that is the question that they have to ask agents. So what happens? Well, the consumer meets with agent after agent after agent who says about the same thing, maybe a little bit different, but about the same thing. I'm going to do this social media thing, and I'm going to do this funnel. I'm going to run these ads. We're going to put it on this website. We're going to do these open houses. It's about the same thing. And to the consumer, they hear the same thing. That's why their perception is that every agent is the same. So therefore, they spend their time shopping agents to find the mule, I call them, who says they're going to do the most, who charges the least. And we have trained the consumer to behave this way. They didn't know any better. It was you that put this in their head because you don't know how to actually sell real estate. And it's not your fault, to be fair. You were never trained on how to actually sell real estate. And so, therefore, you were trained by some other mule who says, okay, we're going to spend 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour and a half, 2 hours talking to sellers in their home, putting all this, this BS in front of them to try to win them over. And so we're going to make these really fancy videos. We're going to try to impress them. And we hope that they don't say, well, that's all fine and dandy, but how many buyers for my house are you going to be able to produce? I know that this is going to help you, but sellers don't know how to ask that. They don't know to ask that. They're being bamboozled. They just see it's like an illusionist that go to the show and they just get caught in the illusion. And sellers are these sexy videos are put in front of them. They say, wow, that's nice. I want my house to do that. And the agents sitting there, some are literally bought into the lie, but some that know better say, yep, this is great. I'm going to be able to get this listing. None of my competitors are going to be able to do this, the sexy stuff that I'm doing. And I'm going to be able to leverage this to get more listings, to build my brand, my reputation. I'll be able to recruit more agents on my team, et cetera, et cetera. Now, in order to be perceived better by the clients that you want to serve, you must first be perceived to be different. So if you are like every other mule in the market who is going to sit in front of a seller at a listing appointment for, let's call it an hour, and sit there and rattle off, I'm going to do this, 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 you probably sound just like every other agent that person's met with, and thus commoditize yourself. That's what's going on. The consumer says, okay, you're going to do, professional photos. You're going to do this. They start to add all this up in their head. They say, okay, and how much do you charge for that? I charge, 6%, 5%, 7%. They say, wow, that seems pretty damn expensive. Now, they don't say this to you, of course. They say, Oh, we love this. We're very interested. Just let us think about it for a couple of days and we'll let you know. Meanwhile, they're going to interview all your competition who then comes in there and they say, because you've trained them to do this, well, Mr. Mule, what are you going to do to sell my house? Well, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this. And they spend the next hour just vomiting all over the seller. And the seller says, okay. In their head, they're kicking each other under the table. It sounds just like the other guy. And they say, well, what are you going to charge? We've met with some other people and they're going to charge us 6%. What are you going to charge us to do all of that? And the seller says, well, I can do it for 4.5%. If it means I'm going to get your business, I'll do it for 4.5%. And it's a race to the bottom. Meanwhile, again, the seller, not knowing any better, doesn't understand what it actually takes to get home sold, nor does the actual agents themselves. They're competing on a house of cards. They're bought into it themselves. They go in there, they believe their own BS. Half of the stuff they tell sellers they're going to do, they don't even do because they know it's BS. They know that if they put the house on page 16 of the real estate magazine, the local real estate magazine, that is not going to do anything. It's to appease the seller and to make them look good. They know that, but they can't say that to the seller. And this is why it's so easy that when I train an agent or an agent hires me to be their coach and I train them what it actually takes to get property sold and they are able to articulate to the seller's like, wow, I have never, ever heard that before, seen that before. None of your competitors are talking about this. And thus, it's easy to win the very best listings at a premium because price is what you pay, value is what you get. And so when you go in there doing what I'm about to show you in just a second, it's so easy to win on value that you don't have to try to win on price or features and benefits, all the things you're going to do to sell their home. Listen, people don't care what you're going to do. They care about what you're going to get done for them. So let me explain. So when I say different, unless you are an agent that I coach watching this, what I'm about to show you is something that A, you have probably never heard of before. B, if you've heard of it before, you've never been trained on actually how to do it. And C, once you do see it and do learn it and understand how to make this happen, you will have an unfair advantage in your market. So how do the experts, the agents that actually are the top listing agents, how do they actually know how to get their property sold? Why do they have a higher list to sold ratio, a higher list price to sold price ratio than every other agent in the market? Well, number one, they do what we call an active buyer analysis. So when they go to put a house on the market, okay, and I bet you most of you are not doing this, they're looking at showing activity, current showing activity, and they're going to match that with buyer search and save history. Now, what do I mean by this? So they're going to analyze the market before they put a property on the market. They're going to analyze by price bracket the percentage of buyer showings by each price bracket. So they're going to establish what we call a TAM, the total adjustable market inside of their local market that has to do with that listing and that price. And they're going to analyze where is the showing activity. And not only just the showing activity, but the showing activity based on price brackets. So they'll break down each price bracket by $25,000 increments to see, okay, I know exactly where buyers are searching for homes right now. And I'm going to do it by property characteristic. So I'm not going to guess as a listing agent, and either the agents that I train, they're not going to guess when they put the house on the market. No, we know for certain, with 100% certainty, we know exactly where the active buyer activity is most so that we can properly position the listing to make that listing the obvious choice. We're not going to just go on hope and list the property at some random price and then hope our marketing is going to do the job. The second thing experts do is a supply and demand audit. So my question for you, again, I'm challenging you. How many times do you do an actual supply and demand audit that you demonstrate to your clients as a fiduciary? Because again, they're hiring you because They trust that you know what you are doing. Now, your secret is safe with me. We're making this video right now. I'm not going to tell anybody, but be honest. How many times do you actually do a supply and demand audit and you actually show that to the seller such that the seller can clearly see here's where all the demand is based on this price bracket, and here's what the supply looks like that we will compete with, thus making the positioning strategy very, very clear for your home, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. And so the seller can see for the first time to say, wow, why has no one ever shown me this? This is clear as day. Once you know how to do this audit, you'll never have to guess or wonder or worry, is my listing going to sell? Because you'll understand exactly how to position your listings in a bracket that has the supply that you need, but more important, the demand that your listing deserves. You won't just guess. You'll know exactly where to position the listing, which brings me into the third thing that actually gets homes sold that no agents are doing, which is a PPI. Brandon, what's a PPI? It's a property positioning inspection. How many of those are you doing? Oh, that's right, none. I bet you there's not one of you watching or listening to this video right now that has ever even heard of a PPI, let alone done a PPI. Well, Brandon, what is it? What is it? Tell us. What is a property position inspection? See, this is why the consumers are being bamboozled, is because only a small percentage of agents are real experts who know what they're doing, how to actually sell houses. They don't have to go in there and lie. And that's the point of this video. That like once you understand how to do these things, it's so easy to win business. It's so easy to earn what you're worth because your competitors don't know how to do it. So when we talk about the PPI or the property positioning inspection, this is where we go into all of the competitors that our client is going to compete head to head with, okay? When we're actually doing an inspection on all of those listings, those active listings, this might involve actually going to visit the property, maybe even with the seller, and we're analyzing and we're inspecting the active property's condition, its price, its days on market, its absorption rate, its showing activity. We look at all of this. We analyze it all. We inspect every single active competitor so that we know, again, how to position the property such that it is the obvious choice. And when we communicate this to sellers, there are no other agents that can compete because they're competing on features, benefits, and price. And you're competing on value. And when you compete on value, there is no competition.